Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to this discussion with myself. My name is Ian Pownall. I'm Associate Professor for Pedagogy in the Business School. I've got today my colleague Charlotte from the International Employability Team and some very willing guinea pigs to talk about their experiences whilst on professional placement. I'll shortly introduce everybody to yourselves, but just I suppose a bit about me. I was a placement student when I was at university, which was quite a long time ago, and I would heartily recommend it, as I'm sure the students today will attest to, if you're in any way interested in developing your CV, your profile, your experience base. But without further ado, if I just go around the room, I'll introduce the students and just give it a bit about yourself, where you've been, what you've been doing, and we'll just take it from there. So if I could just ask in my top left, Rowan, do you want to kick off this afternoon?
Hi, Ian. Yeah. I'm a student at the University of Lincoln studying economics, and I've done a placement year at Siemens in procurement. I've actually just had that extended now, so I'll be working still with Siemens on a part-time basis. I sort of got into the idea of doing an internship because, well, not to be boring, but I was looking at my CV and then looking at a lot of other grads and saying, right, I don't really bring anything special beyond just being all right at my degree. So I thought it'd be a really useful experience. And to be honest, at this age, any amount of experience is good experience. Like I wasn't interested whether this would be something that would exactly be my path or career in the future. It was about getting something on the table to understand where it is I wanted to go, and it's been a really good experience to do that. So I think, as a general comment, it's just useful to get your foot somewhere where you want to be. But yeah, that's my sort of position.
Okay, thank you, Rowan. I would just echo one point Rowan made. The placement experience is not only helpful in exploring things you might like to do, but also in exploring things that it turns out weren't right for you. I began life as a physicist many years ago and spent my placement year working in a physics laboratory, which I found out, despite being technically interesting, wasn't my career path I wanted to explore. But the experience was really helpful in meeting professionals, growing a network. So it can have lots of benefits that may not immediately be apparent. Okay, I'll go next to Charlotte. Introduce Charlotte to yourselves. Charlotte?
Hi, I'm Charlotte. I'm the Employability and Placements Coordinator for Lincoln Business School. I help students secure their placement and sort of manage the placement year. I'm really looking forward to having you all back to final year, although probably won't be the same as what you remember it. But yeah, I have a lot to do with placement students.
Okay, thank you, Charlotte. Okay, reading across my screen, Michael, introduce yourself and let us know a bit about what you're up to and where you.
Hi, I'm Michael. I'm currently studying business management at the University of Lincoln Business School. And yeah, I just finished my placement year, which I thought was quite a diverse experience this year, as I originally started out in the recruitment industry, doing marketing communications up in London, of which, you know, as much as I appreciate like the marketing function, I didn't really think at the time that the recruitment industry was something that I necessarily wanted to pursue. So I started looking at other avenues during my placement year with support from the university to look to move somewhere else, of which ended up moving to a different company within the lubricants industry, Move Europe, which then I decided to pursue a different marketing internship there to conclude the rest of my year, which I found that to be a much more sort of enjoyable experience. And within it, sometimes it's not necessarily about the industry itself. Sometimes it is also about the company. If you don't think that you blend in very well, or they don't necessarily have values that you necessarily want to adopt, it's perfectly okay to move, because at the end of the day, it's okay to find work, but finding work that you enjoy is something that I definitely think you should strive to look for, more importantly. Yeah, and that's me.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Interesting points about trying to think about what fits, and what, as things begin to emerge and you begin to have more experiences, you begin to learn about yourself and what kind of career paths begin to open up, as you say, that perhaps you hadn't thought about before. And suddenly they're in front of you and you think, well, I quite like that, or that's not for me. But it gives you that experience base to build upon, which is something that the placement year is very part of its reason for existing, is to do that. Okay, Harry, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone, I'm Harry. I just finished my placement year at PA Consulting, doing a insight and strategy placement year. I was quite fortunate enough that this enabled me to sort of travel quite a bit. I went through sort of Denmark and other parts of Europe to talk with clients and lead client meetings, which was great. The exposure to sort of the real world and external clients was fantastic. I worked a lot with the insight and strategy team to do financial due diligences with private equity clients, as well as some really whimsical sort of off-the-cuff projects, which are great in terms of the sustainability side of things for different fast-moving consumer goods. So we work with the likes of some like Mars Chocolate was a great client that we worked with, as well with some other sort of public knowledge ones that are out there on PA's website. But it was a real great diverse experience for myself, moving into London, settling down, and really trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my career. I landed on my feet in the sense that it was quite a diverse opportunity that it gave me. I was doing one thing for a 6-week block, and then you'd move on to do something else for another 6-week block. So it was really understanding what is it that I want to do and progress within my career as well as my academic studies, and it sort of aligned with everything. And I hope to return there after my 3rd year, COVID pending with everything that's going on. But we've had some pretty positive discussions so far, so it's definitely worth doing a placement year if you're thinking about a career choice, because it can definitely, like Rowan said, get your foot in the door into the right companies that you want to be part of.
Thank you, Harry. I think one question everyone has on their mind now is, did you get any free samples from Mars and their chocolates?
Unfortunately, that was no. It was more of the sort of internal sort of marketing. It wasn't really marketing, it was a strategy plan that they wanted. So we did get to have a tour of M&M World, which was pretty cool, sort of behind the scenes. But apart from that, it was strictly no confectionery was allowed, sort of type of thing. They were pretty strict on it, but it was a good time nonetheless.
Okay, well, but I think you raised another point about often placements how are made up of multiple experiences, and yours included some travel as well, and that kind of really diverse exposure is a really good way to build your skills, to build your experience base. Okay, Connor, to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about what you've been up to.
Hi, yeah, so my name's Connor. I'm an advertising and marketing student, and I did my placement with high street fashion retailer Jules. So I would say, starting off, it's fun. I really enjoyed it. I think a lot of people go in here just kind of wanting to get experience and improve your skills in both professional and personal aspects. But I also found that I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad I took the year out. I got to be involved with loads of things that I didn't think that someone at my level would be able to get involved with. I got to get involved with our big campaigns, getting involved with a lot of the stores. I also managed to move around departments a lot as well. So retail and shows, wholesale marketing, PR and influencer. I kind of got to touch a little bit of everything, which was really good in my experience. And also just meeting people is a great opportunity to kind of, get to know new people. And I got to talk with most people in the business, whether that be the CEOs or just people around different areas like, wholesale and buying and all other aspects. But I'd definitely just say if you kind of on the fence about it, definitely do it. Because I went in thinking originally that I wasn't going to enjoy it, and I was just doing it primarily for the experience and to get my foot in the door at a big company. But coming out the other end, I'd say that it's helped me grow professionally and personally, and I got to meet loads of cool people. And I think it's a great experience for you to go and kind of get to know new people and kind of branch yourself out into things that you wouldn't usually do on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, I'd just say definitely do it.
Okay, thank you, Connor. I think it's the message. One of the messages coming out so far from your comments and the other students. It's the professional placement year is much more than an academic activity. It really is something where you begin to grow professionally. Your skill set begins to mature. Just the fact that you're mixing with different levels of professionals as well, and that you have a voice, and people want to hear what you think about something, because for many organizations, your views are fresh, you're dynamic, and that's something that they will want to know more about. Yeah. So we'll move on to George and see what George has to say.
So my name is George. I'm an international business management student at Lincoln, and I did my placement in Palm Beach. I was working in a country club, and my experience was a bit crazy. I started working there, and I thought it was going to be a lot more managerial stuff, because from what I'm getting from you guys, that's what most of you were doing. But I was mainly a waiter for the whole year, which is something that I was not expecting. I was obviously expecting a bit more from them, a bit more commitment. But it was a really good experience, because I obviously took up this with all the managers in the club and with the company that set me up and everything. And I got to voice, obviously I was speaking for everyone else in that placement, because they were not enjoying it, and we didn't think that we were getting as much out of it as we should have been getting. But by the end of it, we managed to make some big changes in the organization that we hope will continue throughout the next interns and the next placement students that might choose to go on to do that placement. So it was negative and positive, but overall it was really good. I was living in America, which it was amazing, getting to know all the culture, the differences, and living abroad. Really, it really just makes you into a different person. It grows you as a person, and you get to experience so much more. It's like everything you've always known is not right, and you have to relearn everything from another perspective. So it was really positive overall, but we did have some trouble, and I think that also helped me grow. So I would really recommend it, but just make sure that you know where you're going into.
Okay, thank you, George. Again, some really good points made there, and it's very interesting that from your experiences, you were really a change agent as well for the organization. Clearly, you and the people you're working with wanted to offer more to Palm Beach, and you also made a valid point about it's not just moving out of the university and the classroom into a professional context. It's about the cultural change that comes from the organization, and in your case, from the different national context as well, and finding your feet in that different environment. Whether in your case it's finding a voice too to change in that experience you were having. Okay, I think now I'll just move on to a bit about how LIBS supported you in securing the placement, a bit about the application process. So I think at this point, if you want to have a comment, just raise your hand, and I'll just announce you and give us a view about what the university did, what the business school did to support you in the application process and finding the placement. How do you find Palm Beach? How do you find Jules? Where does that come from? So anybody want to kick off? Rowan, can you kick off for us?
Oh yeah. Personally, I know it's completely different for everyone, because there are a lot of courses that have quite a grounded and understood history of where they can go. I would take guesses that larger courses might have a really good idea of what it is they they want to do, but because economics is a really new course at Lincoln, it was a case of this is not really something we've done in a big amount before. We had 1 or 2 years before us of experience, and a few of them went on to do procurement or financial analysis or something along those lines. But there wasn't that maybe that culture in the course. So for me and my friend who also went on placement, it was a bit of a stab in the dark. We had the generic support systems from the Lincoln International Business School. So we'd have people like Charlotte really helping us out, saying, look, you know, we know this isn't specific to your course, but here are the rules you can follow to make it easier. There's sort of weekly, and by the time it's approaching the actual placement itself, there's almost like daily sessions supporting you every step of the way with all the information you could need. Personally, I'm a bad person, so I didn't actually attend a lot of those, but you should. But in my personal situation, applying took a long time because it's very competitive. No matter what industry you're going into, it's almost always competitive. So you're going to need to make sure you send out a certain volume of applications, whilst of course focusing on the quality of the content. So for me, and I'll make a comparison to this in a second. For me, I sent out 35 applications, and of the 2 that I did get interviews for, which was the only 2 I got interviews for, I got both jobs. So it was like it was good when I got there, but it was scary for the first 6 months of applying, just saying no, no, no. You know, certain types of jobs. There's banks like Goldman Sachs who would churn through 10,000 applications, and if your CV is not structured, you know, in a certain way, then you might be ousted on that one. So it depends entirely on the industry you're applying to. Other industries are less competitive, and luckily with Siemens, they maintain a commitment to usually take on a volume of Lincoln students. That's not, I don't know if that's still the case, but it was really useful to understand that Siemens already had a relationship with the Lincoln International Business School. So for me, it was an understood process. We can bring you on, and we know how to work with the students. And when you're actually on your placement itself, you'll get a routine visit from a placement tutor or a placement supervisor, which is really good as well, because it makes you realize where you are in your own professional personal journey, and gives you that checkpoint to say, wow, my friends are graduating, yeah, but I'm making a different type of graduation, I suppose, if you want to be metaphorical about it. I'm doing something entirely different. So the process basically just takes time, and it's difficult, but you've got to understand what you're looking at down the sort of the long tunnel. You're looking at a really good experience potentially. That's all I'd say. Sorry.
Thanks, Rowan. I think it's worth bearing in mind, perhaps if the other students present could comment on this. It is clearly very desirable to try and always apply for a placement with a big blue chip company, a big blue chip name like Siemens. But equally, the experiences you can accrue from a placement can sometimes be as good from a lesser known company, a lesser known name, where perhaps you're doing more multitasking, more various roles, where perhaps you are given a bit more responsibility because you are one of a fewer number of people involved in that organization. And your application rate, interesting to hear you say that you perhaps didn't go to many sessions as you should have gone to in preparing for that. But having a strike rate of 17 to 1 is pretty good. One of my alumni many years ago, she applied to 200 placement opportunities.
Wow.
Until she got the one she wanted, which was IBM at the time down in Portsmouth, as it was a couple of years ago now. What about the rest of you? Harry, how did you find and end up working at PA Consulting?
So I used a website called ratemyplacement.com, which was incredible. It has all past and past placement students have left reviews of where they've been. So you fill out a sort of a criteria which was recommended from LIBs themselves as to where what type of things you want to achieve on your placement year. So I went through the checklist of what I wanted to achieve, and PA Consulting came about. So I applied through their sort of process, much a similar sense of Rowan. There was thousands of applicants, and something that Libs really helped out with is making sure that your CV stands out, that you have the ability to sort of, without being from, I would say, a traditional red brick university, going into sort of a bigger company such as PA Consulting, where you have a lot of applicants from the likes of York, Oxford, Cambridge. How do we make ourselves stand out when we don't have that tagline next to us? And that was something that Libs really helped with. So the application process itself was sort of pretty straightforward in terms of what Lincoln had sort of told us it would be like. So it was, you put in your CV, you then do a couple of aptitude tests to make sure that you are the right person, so your personality matches with what your employer wants. From there, you will be sort of asked to go into a assessment day where it's sort of 9 till 4. You do a various amounts of tasks. Some of them give you pre-reads, some of it is on the spot. How can you think of a solution here? And then from there, you get called back into a final interview. And once you pass all of those stages, it's just a case of when you would start and obviously accepting your offer. Yeah, it was quite a pretty straightforward process, stressful nonetheless. There was multiple places, obviously, we all sort of try to apply for. But my one key piece of advice would be is to, if you're thinking about doing a placement, is to get it sorted early, sorted easy, so that you are able to go into your second semester before leaving for your placement year, knowing that you are going into your third year of study with something settled and not having to try and panic in the last couple of weeks to get it through.
Okay, thank you, Harry. It's great that you're all here and you've all had these experiences, very diverse. But in securing them, and many students, as has been said, seek out placements every year. How do you deal with rejection? How do you deal with going through a process and then not quite achieving that? Did you feel it changed you in some way? Do you feel you developed different skill sets or different perspectives on that? Michael?
Yeah, as in, I pretty much did the same thing. It was kind of a lot of shots in the dark, really applying for various different companies. And a lot of the time I did end up getting through to like the final interview, of which you kind of just get cut short. But you shouldn't really let that deter you. I found as well that the more experience of going in like to interviews and stuff, like the more interviews that I went to, the better I got at them. Effectively, is in the university already prepped me well enough with our assessment day, you know, where you get that kind of initial prep for interviews and everything like that as well. But actually going into it and also overcoming the pressure of going into an actual real interview, I find that it kind of you kind of get a lot more relaxed as you go to more of them, almost. So just don't become don't be necessarily put down by the fact that if you miss out on getting that specific job opportunity by, you know, a small margin. Just keep trying, you will eventually get it. You know, sometimes you miss the cut by just that much, but you know, who hasn't, almost. Who hasn't? So the best thing you can do is just keep trying, and the more interviews you go to, the more obviously it's valuable experience that you get as well, and you will end up getting exactly what you want, and most of the time it works out for the best anyway.
Thank you, Michael. I think the key point there is experience. Yeah, rejection is part of life, and we all have to develop a way to manage and cope with that. But going through the placement application process, I think clearly is something also of value as well, and applying for those posts. Perhaps one thing we can perhaps turn our thoughts to is, in the current situation, the current climate, placements are, at least for the foreseeable future, going to be perhaps a mix of blended office versus working at home, perhaps on rotas and shifts with fellow colleagues and teams. Would you have any advice about how you might deal with that? How you might, from your experiences dealing with people you've not met before, how you might engage with them, how you might approach them, what you did perhaps to break the ice with new works colleagues, and any comments or advice for people who might be listening and watching. Connor, you were at Jules. How would you perhaps, given your experience of that particular sector, how is that evolving, do you think, in the current situation, and what issues might arise for placement students going forward?
So yeah, obviously COVID's put a massive spanner in the works, but I'd say it's not too different, to be fair. It's exactly what you do in the office, but it's just online. You know, we're going to have to deal with that coming back to university, and you have to deal with that in the workplace. So I only worked from home for about, I think, 3 weeks before I was actually furloughed, because due to mainly being in retail and shows, you know, everything was closed down, so there was nothing there for us to do at that point. But I'd say everyone's in the same boat, you know, everyone's human, and even like people that have been at the company for multiple years, you know, they still have the same like issues as what students do. You know, you just got to talk to people, you know, in the same regard. You know, it's a little bit different, as in like people are like sorting the babies out in the back and having to, you know, do it from the dinner table. But I think as a whole, you know, everyone understands, you know, you've got to have a little bit of lenience. You know, it's not going to be the exact same experience that you get in the office, where you get into, you know, move about and talk to as many people. But I'd say overall, it didn't really affect my experience at all, other than the fact of, you know, being able to go to shows and being able to go out to stores. And I did kind of miss that part, like after a couple of weeks. But, you know, I feel this skill, you know, now more than ever, everything's going to be going online, in case, you know, a second wave hits. So it's actually a really good experience just to kind of get used to being online and working in this kind of environment. But yeah, that's all I'd rate to John.
Okay, I think you're right. I think the working environment, it has changed, at least for the foreseeable future, will be different. We've all had to become quick experts in Microsoft Teams, other forms of communication. Yeah. And this one today is an example of that. And as you say, I'm hoping my 6-year-old doesn't come running through the background any minute now. He's threatened to do it once or twice. Okay, we've got a few minutes left. Perhaps just open it up to any comments some people have about, if you could give advice to anybody who's on the cusp about thinking about, do I do a 4-year degree? Do I do a 3-year degree? And what one piece of advice would perhaps you give to someone on that kind of precipice? I'll just go around the room and just give me your top of your head comments. So, just George, what do you think?
Well, I feel like 100% do it. My experience wasn't the best experience, but I still enjoyed it. I learned a lot. I matured a lot. I feel like I grew a lot during my time. I had to deal with a lot of things, and that is a lot. It's really worth it. It's really worth it because in uni, like all our lives, we've been doing like theoretical stuff. We've been learning about how to do stuff. But when you actually get put into a situation when you have to apply all that theory to real life, it's completely different. You get to see why you're learning the stuff you're learning, and you get to apply it, and you understand why you need to know it. So setting yourself back a year is setting you up for a much higher, like, your potential will be times a lot more, because you'll have so much more experience, and experience is everything. Like you can read as many books as you want, you can study as much as you want, but experience is what really matters. So I think that taking an extra year and going through this is one of the best choices I've ever made.
Okay, thank you, George. I really like the idea of thinking about that as investing in yourself, really, giving yourself that year just to find out what works for you. Quickly around the room, just Rowan, any final comments about?
Yeah, probably agree with Jorge. Basically, the idea is you enter in an internship on the basis that, again, you are investing massively to sort of increase your altitude, as opposed to just coming out of uni and expecting to be somehow on a higher playing field than everyone else. You're going to be struggling with everyone else, so give yourself that give yourself that one up. Understand that it's a very difficult process to actually get the placement in the first place, but there's a reason for that. It's because everyone wants it. And when you're there, learn as much as you can, even if you don't necessarily enjoy it, but enjoy it for what it's going to give you.
Okay, thank you, Rowan. George, you want to add a comment there? Or?
Yes, I just wanted to say, like, most people are very worried about time. They feel like 1 year is going to make a massive difference to their lives, when in reality, like, taking that year out it's only 1 year. It literally, like, compared to the rest of your life, that experience is going to add so much value to you that, like, 1 year literally, like, it flies by. You'll regret not doing it. So take it as a pro, not a con.
Thank you. And I think, given you all going back into your final year, you may all agree that your degrees have, looking backwards, moved very quickly. 4 years are whizzing by as you look forwards now to graduation in 2021. Michael, any final comments about placement?
Yeah, I definitely think that it's worth investing your time in. Obviously it's understandable, but you have your preconceptions about going into a placement year whilst you're applying and everything like that. And no matter what company you work for, no matter how big they may be, the preconceptions you have going in there will always be different to what it's actually like working within that company. So I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that if you let's say, do not be afraid to dislike where you're working, because I went in and I thought it's amazing, the opportunity to get to work and everything like that. And if it doesn't suit you, do not be afraid to move companies. The university will support you within that aspect. And as well, when it comes to things like actually acquiring placements as well as moving jobs, do not also be afraid to ask friends as well, because especially at working in the placement year before COVID hit, of course, activity in most places was actually quite high. So one of the things that you have to consider is that companies will always be looking to, any company would always be looking to take new people on. Sometimes the work, the level of work gets to a point for them where it's not exactly manageable. So let's say, they want to hire someone and pass on their knowledge to them and make you proficient in, help aiding them with their job. Always keep your eyes open for new opportunities and stuff like that, because they're always there. So yeah, that's all I've got to say about that.
Thank you, Michael. Rowan, your follow up on that?
Sorry, I'll be quick. I was just going to say, going into next year, I would advise that the sorts of industries that are going to be hiring are going to be entirely different to the ones we saw this year. We've all been quite lucky in which we squeezed out maybe 9 months worth, and even luckier for people like myself who can work from home. But like Connor, retail industries, massive industries are sort of hemorrhaging right now. So do bear that in mind when you're making applications and you're not seeing anything available in the first place, because be realistic and say there will be jobs for sure, but in what industries? And if I do get turned down for these roles, understand that it's a different environment to what your mate might have been doing last year. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Rowan. And I'll come to Charlotte in a moment just to kind of close. I imagine there's quite a bit of change in Charlotte's role about her sector focus as well because of that. But Harry, do you have any final comments about your experiences in placement?
Yeah, I would just say that I wouldn't be afraid to apply during the current climate. I think there are plenty of opportunities that are out there. I did the last sort of quarter of my placement working from back in Bristol, where I'm from. And all the rest of the team were spread out all across London. There is no doubt that companies are adapting that are out there, and there will be plans in place for people on placements to be able to work remotely from home, such as using Microsoft Teams, Skype, and so forth. So I think it's definitely worth applying for it, despite what's going on. I wouldn't let it try and hinder your judgment as to whether or not you should do it or not, because for me, I think it's the best choice I made academically. To go out and do a placement year, going back into my third year now, knowing that how much I need to work in order to get the right degree I want, and how I need to get back into the company that I just did my placement for. My initial worry was that I was part of quite a big society on campus, had a lot of friends about, and I thought I was going to, miss missed all the opportunities with them in my third year, but the sooner you realise that you're doing your degree for yourself and not for going out with your friends and stuff like that, the sooner you can realise that you can better yourself by doing a placement year, and you can take that through into your final year of study. It's definitely worth it, and I would just encourage anyone who is on the fence to just do it, because there won't be an opportunity again where you can take a year out of your university study to go out and experience the world as at a 20-year-old age. So yeah, definitely recommend it.
Thank you, Harry. I think that's a good point about just seizing the opportunity now when it's available to you in this particular context. And Connor, any final words before I hand back to Charlotte?
Yeah, just like a different note, I just want to say that the application process is definitely the hardest part. And it's never too late to apply either. I remember saying to Charlotte, I think in February before my placement, that I wasn't going to do one because I've got a girlfriend at university. I've got friends at university. I didn't want to leave all that behind. And I was like, I want to graduate with my friends. But in the end, I decided, like Harry said, you've got to do it for yourself. And so I didn't start applying until February, where a lot of the placements had already gone, and like opportunities were scarce. But I think as long as you're different, I think you've got to make your CV unique, not just bog standard. Try and make it a little bit creative as well. And also looking at other places. Obviously, Rate My Placement's a very good site, but it's also very popular. So have a look on careers websites for companies that you're interested in, and even stuff like LinkedIn as well. They're great places to find opportunities. But just don't let it get you down if you haven't started applying straight away. And just if it's what you want to do, and you're willing to put some time aside to better yourself, then definitely go for it.
Thank you, Connor. Some good advice there about having a very wide net and looking in places, perhaps the more diverse and less obvious places to find good opportunities.
Yeah, definitely.
And Charlotte, have any final comments as somebody who actively engaged in this process within the university and the business school?
Yeah, I feel like I haven't said that much throughout this webinar, but it's been really nice to hear sort of the students' comments, and I think that actually it's probably better coming from you guys because you've been there and you've recently lived it. I mean, your experiences are all amazing, but they're also different, and that is really important thing for me, is that a placement year is individual to what you want it to be, and any experience, whether, like George said, for example, it didn't exactly go to plan, but actually you've probably learned a lot more skills than you perhaps would have done somewhere else, and it's different skills. So I'm really proud of all of you, and in terms of coming back to uni, hopefully we'll have a little celebration for you all. Still trying to work out how to get around coronavirus restrictions in terms of having a celebration, but it's something that I think in terms of the support, it's really changed what we're going to do, but hopefully we're going to have you guys sort of online talking to more students and sharing your experiences that way. I think actually that's a really good opportunity for the students who are looking for placement years to have that interaction with you. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens next year.
Okay, thank you, Charlotte. And can I just thank everybody for coming along today and sharing your experiences, and wish you all the best and for your future studies in your final year of your degree programs. Look forward to seeing you finish next summer. Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.